Just like I said, when he said, bet you Keefe D getting locked up for Tupac murder? And I said, he need to be right in handcuffs with me for Biggie murder, because I know he had his hands in that shit.
You think you know the story of Tupac Shakur? You've heard about the white Cadillac, the neon lights of the Vegas Strip, and the tragic ending that shocked the world. But what you probably don't know is the money trail behind it all. We're talking about a secret $1 million bounty that seemingly disappeared. While the public focused on a rap war, a quiet deal was allegedly happening behind closed doors. This is a story of promises, betrayal, and a man named Zip who walked away rich while everyone else paid the price. Buckle up, because Keefe D is finally breaking down the hidden financial trail that 50 Cent wants the world to see. Let's rewind to the night everything changed. September 7th, 1996, Las Vegas was alive. The city was hot, loud, and overflowing with people. Mike Tyson was fighting Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand, and every major name was in the building. The night was supposed to be about celebration and partying, but behind the flashing lights, something deadly was already set in motion. Inside the MGM Grand lobby, things suddenly went left. Tupac Shakur, the biggest rapper on the planet at the time, spotted Orlando Anderson. Orlando wasn't just anybody. He was a member of the Southside Compton Crips and the nephew of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. Months earlier, Orlando had allegedly tried to snatch a chain from one of Tupac's people. In the streets, that kind of disrespect doesn't get ignored. When Tupac saw Orlando, there was no hesitation. "You from the South?" he asked. And then it was on. Tupac, Suge Knight, and their massive entourage jumped Orlando right there on the casino floor. The whole thing was caught on security cameras. To the average viewer watching the news later, it looked like just another celebrity brawl. But to Keefe D, it meant something very different. He watched his nephew get stomped out in front of the world, and in gang culture, that kind of humiliation demands a response. Keefe D later said that moment gave them the ultimate green light to retaliate. But here's where the story takes a turn. According to Keefe D, this wasn't driven by emotion alone. It was about money. He claims there was already a bounty on Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur $1 million. And according to him, the person who put that money on the table was Sean Diddy Combs. To understand why a music executive would allegedly offer that kind of money, you have to understand the fear at the time. In the mid-90s, the East Coast versus West Coast feud wasn't just music, it was real life. Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, was seen as a serious threat. He was physically intimidating, known for violence, and had no problem publicly embarrassing rivals. Keefe D says Diddy was genuinely terrified of Suge. He describes Diddy as being extremely afraid, especially after Suge publicly humiliated him at award shows and openly threatened bad boy artists. According to Keefe D, that fear eventually turned into desperation in a police confession. Keefe D claimed that Diddy once gathered around 45 gangster disciples and associates in a room. In front of everyone, Diddy allegedly vented his frustration, saying he would give anything to have Suge Knight taken out. When someone with that kind of money makes a statement like that, people take it seriously. Keefe D says he did exactly that. Later on, during a private conversation, he claims Diddy became more direct. According to Keefe D, Diddy said Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur needed to be eliminated and that he was willing to pay $1 million to make it happen. This is the moment where a street altercation turns into something much bigger. The Southside Crips, according to Keefe D, weren't just reacting to what happened at the MGM Grand. They saw an opportunity, revenge for Orlando, and a massive payday at the same time. Two problems solved with one move. The Harlem connection starts with one name: Zip. This is the most mysterious figure in the entire story. His real name was Eric Martin, but in the streets, everyone knew him as Zip or Von Zip. You won't find Zip front and center in music videos or interviews. He stayed behind the scenes, but he was one of the most influential figures in New York at the time. Zip ran a Harlem nightclub called Zip Code. On the surface, it was just a place to party. In reality, it was a command center. Zip was deeply connected in the underworld. He moved drugs, knew the hustlers, and had direct access to celebrities. More importantly, he was extremely close to Diddy Keefe. D described Zip as more than a friend, more like a father or uncle figure. Diddy's biological father died when he was young, and Zip stepped in, helping guide him through the harsh streets of Harlem. As Diddy's music career took off, Zip stayed right by his side. He became the link between Bad Boy's polished corporate image and the raw street element behind it. When Diddy needed protection on the West Coast, he didn't call the police, he called Zip. And when Zip needed muscle, he called Keefe D. That's how the relationship formed. Keefe D admits he and Zip were already doing business together, moving drugs between Los Angeles and New York. So when Diddy needed street protection, Zip personally vouched for Keefe D and the Southside Crips. This detail matters. It shows that the Crips weren't strangers. They weren't random. They had worked security for Diddy before. There's even a story about Keefe D letting Diddy use his 1964 Chevy Impala for ushers. Can you get it video? They were connected. They were associates. Now we're back in Vegas. The night of the fight, the Southside Crips are furious over Orlando Anderson getting jumped. They want retaliation, but there's a problem. They didn't come prepared for a shooting. They were in Vegas to enjoy the Tyson fight, not to start a war. They needed a weapon. So where do you go in Vegas when you need a gun and you're connected to Bad Boy? You go through the middleman. You go to Zip. Keefe D claims he met up with Zip Martin later that night. Zip was in Vegas for the Tyson fight, just like everyone else. Keefe D told him about the beating and said they were going after Tupac and Sugi. According to Keefe D, Zip didn't try to stop it. He helped. Keefe D alleges that Zip handed him a black .40 caliber Glock pistol. Let that sink in. If this account is true, the weapon used in Tupac's murder didn't come from some random stash. It was allegedly supplied by Diddy's closest associate. Zip gave them exactly what they needed. Keefe D says Zip even told them the timing was perfect. With the gun secured, Keefe D got into the white Cadillac. Terrence Bubba Brown was driving. DeAndre Big Ray Smith sat in the back. Along with Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, the same man who'd been beaten at the MGM Grand, they cruised the strip, actively searching. Eventually they spotted Suge Knight's black BMW. Tupac was hanging out the window, yelling at women, enjoying the night. He had no idea death was right beside him. At the intersection of Flamingo Road and Covo Lane, the Cadillac pulled up on the passenger side of the BMW. Keefe D says he took the Glock Zip gave him and passed it to the back seat. He offered it to Big Dre, but Dre hesitated. That's when Orlando Anderson grabbed the gun. 13 shots rang out. Glass shattered. Tires screeched. Tupac was hit 4 times. Suge Knight was grazed in the head. The white Cadillac disappeared into the Vegas night. The mission was complete. The green light had been carried out. On the days that followed, everything blurred together. News reports, police everywhere. Tupac lay in the hospital fighting for his life. He survived for 6 days before passing away on September 13, 1996, but while the world prayed, Keefe D waited. He believed he had just completed a $1 million job. He expected appreciation. He expected payment. According to police records in Keefe D's own account, the phone call finally came. Keefe D says it was Diddy on the line. And Diddy wasn't calling to mourn. He was calling to ask one question to see if the job had been done. Keefe D says Diddy asked one short, very specific question. Is that us? He wanted confirmation that the Southside Crips were responsible. He wanted to know if the problem had been taken care of. Keefe D says he answered confidently, yeah. To him, that was all the proof he needed. The boss knew, the boss approved, the job was done. Now it was time to get paid. A few weeks later, the police pressure was heavy, but the crew stayed quiet. Keefe D needed that money. His people had taken a massive risk, and now they were targets. Not just for law enforcement, but for death row and the Bloods. That $1 million wasn't just profit. It was protection. It was survival. Keefe D arranged a meeting with Zip Martin, the middleman. Zip was the one who handled money for Diddy. If the payment was coming, it would come through him. They agreed to meet at Hot Wings Cafe on Melrose Avenue, a low-key spot where business could be handled without too much attention. Keefe D showed up thinking about what his cut would look like, what life could be with that kind of money. He ordered food and waited. Then Zip arrived, but the conversation didn't go the way Keefe expected. When Keefe asked about the money, Zip didn't pull out cash. There was no check, just excuses. Zip allegedly told him things were too hot. He said the feds were watching and that he had to be careful. He claimed he needed to talk to Diddy and figure out how to move the money safely. Be patient, he told him. It's coming. Keefe D left the restaurant with nothing, but he still trusted Zip. They went way back. He assumed it was just a delay, but the days kept passing. Weeks turned into months. Keefe D tried calling Zip. The calls went unanswered. Then the number stopped working altogether. Zip Martin had vanished. That's when the street rumors started circulating. People were talking. Word from New York was that Zip was living large. He had come into serious money. He was opening a new club, driving expensive cars, repainting his Corvette, spending freely. That's when it hit Keefe D. The money had been paid. Diddy had allegedly sent the $1 million to Zip, trusting him to pass it along, but Zip never did. He kept it. He took the bounty for himself and left the shooters exposed. Keefe D was furious. He felt completely betrayed. He believed he had done the ultimate dirty work for Bad Boy, removed their biggest enemy, and ended up with nothing. Later, he told police, I wish I never met Puff Daddy. Period. He ruined my life. I was rich and under the radar. Now it's all gone. To understand how Zip could steal $1 million from people capable of real violence, you have to understand who he was. This wasn't new behavior. There's a famous story involving Zip and Mike Tyson that perfectly sums him up. Back when Tyson was heavyweight champion, he was managed by Don King, who was known for carrying huge amounts of cash. One day, Zip was in a hotel room with Tyson and Don King. King brought in a duffel bag full of money, hundreds of thousands in cash. Zip allegedly walked over, picked up the bag, joked about it, maybe tossed some money in the air, and decided he'd hold it for Tyson. Don King couldn't do anything, and Zip never gave the money back. That was Zip. Fearless, bold. If he saw an opportunity, he took it. He knew Diddy couldn't go to the police about a missing $1 million tied to a murder. He knew Keefe D couldn't take him to court. It was the perfect setup. Zip lived out the rest of his life, wealthy and respected in Harlem. When he died in 2012, his funeral was massive. A horse-drawn carriage carried his casket through the streets, passing his club zip code. Crowds lined the roads to pay their respects, and Diddy was there. He showed up. He mourned. He supported the family. He reportedly even spoke at the service. It showed how deep their bond really was. Zip knew too much. He wasn't just a friend. He was the keeper of secrets. Diddy had to stay close to Zip right up until the end. For years, this whole story lived in the shadows. It was street talk, rumors people whispered about but couldn't prove. Then, in 2008, everything changed. Keefe D was arrested on drug charges and suddenly facing 25 years to life in federal prison. Law enforcement offered him a deal. If he told them everything he knew about the murders of Tupac and Biggie, they would help him with his case. Keefe D agreed and signed a proffer agreement. That meant he had to tell the truth, and as long as he didn't lie, his statements couldn't be used against him. Behind closed doors, Keefe D laid it all out. He talked about the green light, he talked about the gun, and he talked about Eric Zip Martin and Diddy. Investigators believed him. They believed him enough to take the next step. In 2009, police launched a sting operation. They flew Keefe D to New York and wired him up. The plan was straightforward. Keefe D would meet with Zip Martin and try to get him to talk about the murder and the money on tape. If Zip admitted that Diddy had paid him for the hit, it would crack the case wide open. Keefe D walked into the meeting nervous, trying to guide the conversation back to 1996. He brought up the money, hinting at the past, but Zip didn't take the bait. He was an old-school hustler. He knew better than to talk about murders in the open. Zip sidestepped the questions and told Keefe D that if he wanted to do business, he should deal with his nephew instead. The confession never came. The sting didn't lead to immediate arrests, but it proved something important. The LAPD and federal task force took these claims seriously. They spent serious money flying an informant across the country because they believed the Diddy connection was real. Fast forward to today, and a new voice has amplified everything. 50 Cent. He's been feuding with Diddy for years, but this feels different. This time, he's not just trolling online. He's positioning himself like an investigator. He sold a documentary series to Netflix titled Did He Do It?, also known as The Reckoning. 50 Cent says the series will expose stories that have been buried for decades. He's been posting non-stop about Keefe D, sharing clips of interviews where Keefe talks about the green light, posting photos of Zip Martin, and forcing millions of followers to look at the details. He claims the documentary includes unreleased footage of Diddy from days before his recent arrest. Diddy's legal team has pushed back, sending cease and desist letters to Netflix and claiming the footage is private. 50 Cent says he got it legally. He's framing the whole situation as a long-running cover-up, arguing that the industry knew about Diddy's behavior but stayed silent because of his power. Now that Diddy is locked up on unrelated charges, that fear is fading. People are talking. 50 Cent is connecting the dots, telling fans to look at the violence of the 90s, the current abuse allegations, and the pattern he believes has always been there. In his view, it's the same person who thought money could solve everything. Another voice has added weight to the story. Gene Deal. Diddy's former bodyguard. Gene was there during the bad boy era. He stood next to Diddy at parties, events, and award shows. In recent interviews, he's backed up parts of Keefe D's account. Gene talks about the atmosphere back then, the fear, and how scared Diddy was of Suge Knight. He recalls the night Biggie was killed, saying the security felt wrong and that Diddy seemed panicked. He also confirms the closeness between Zip and Diddy, describing Zip as the one who handled the dirty work. When Gene Deal speaks, it carries weight. He wasn't a gang member. He was inside Bad Boy, and even he says things didn't add up. Suge Knight speaks from behind bars. Even the man who was hit by a bullet that night is finally talking. Suge Knight has been in prison for years, and for a long time, he refused to name names. He stuck to the street code and never said who shot him. But lately, that silence has started to crack. In recent prison interviews, Suge has dropped some heavy hints. He said, "Everybody knows where $1 million came from." He didn't say Diddy's name, but he didn't need to. Everyone understands what he was implying. It was a clear nod to the alleged bounty. Suge has also said that Diddy belongs in prison, bringing up the abuse allegations involving women and saying Diddy has done horrible things and it's time he pays for them. When Suge Knight, Diddy's longtime rival and the man who survived that shooting, lines up with the police theory, it makes people believe there's more truth behind it than just rumors. This isn't only living on YouTube anymore, it's now part of official court filings. A producer named Rodney Lil Rod Jones filed a major lawsuit against Diddy. Rodney lived with Diddy for months and worked closely with him. In his lawsuit, he brings up the Tupac shooting. He claims Diddy bragged about it and said he got away with the big one. It's a civil case, but the damage is real. These allegations are now on legal record, forcing Diddy's attorneys to respond and dragging the 1996 murder back into a courtroom setting. At the same time, Tupac Shakur's family is finally pushing forward. They've hired Alex Spiro, a high-profile lawyer known for going on the offensive. The family is investigating the possible connection between Diddy and Tupac's murder. They're following the money, searching for proof of that alleged payment Zip received. Even though Zip is gone, financial records don't disappear. If they can uncover a transfer from a bad boy account to Zip Martin in 1996 or 1997, that could change everything. They're preparing for a wrongful death lawsuit. They want accountability. They want the world to recognize that Tupac wasn't just killed in a random gang shooting, but as part of something much bigger. So why did it take nearly 30 years for this story to surface? Why was it buried for so long? The answer is power. Diddy was one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. He made people wealthy. He controlled careers. Speaking out against him came with consequences. Keefe D stayed quiet to avoid prison. Zip stayed quiet because he was rich and loyal. Fear kept everyone in line. Now, that fear is gone. Diddy is locked up. Keefe D is facing trial with nothing left to protect. Zip is dead. The walls that kept this story hidden have finally collapsed. 50 Cent isn't the source of it all, he's just the amplifier. He's taking decades of whispers from the streets and putting them in front of the world, exposing how the machinery of the music industry really worked.